Good afternoon, councillors, officers, members of the public. Welcome along. I declare this meeting open. Under announcements, this is Councillor Hayward trying to... Are you there, James? No, I'll live with you. I'll conduct the meeting, you look after the technical stuff. Under announcements, councillors, there are two amongst a number of activities this week coming up. On Thursday, the Men of Song have their festival starting on Thursday, launching on Thursday, with activities over the weekend. And we also have the We also have the public meeting to enable the member for Bunbury, the Honourable John Kasuri, and his friends at Swardic to explain the marine development. That's also on Thursday at 6 p.m. So those of you who can get along to that, I encourage you to do so. And my fuel account for the period is $68.27. I think we're all here, apart from Councillor Hayward, who has requested approval for external contact. Can I just have someone move that be approved? Councillor Cook, Councillor McCleary, all in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. We will continue to endeavour to contact Councillor Hayward. Declarations of interest, I have several here. Councillor Steck, 10.4.2, it's a financial interest, as her partner is a proponent. Councillor David Prosser, 10.4.2, financial interest, as Citygate Properties own the property in question, which is financially associated with. Councillor Jones declares an impartiality interest in item 10.5.4, which is the water playground, as she is chairman of ACT West. Councillor Jones declares a impartiality interest in item 10.2.1, as she's a member of Aged Persons Housing Collective Incorporated. Are there any other declarations of interest, councillors? I think there's one over here. Councillor Steele, 10.4.1, financial approval, proposed change of use to showroom at Unit 4. It's a proximity interest, as she knows the proponent. Councillor Morris declares a impartiality interest in item 10.1.1, as he has signs on council property. Thank you. Are there any other declarations, councillors? Councillor Hayward, welcome to the meeting. You've been given approval to attend externally. Do you have any declarations of interest?
Thank you very much. At this point.
Okay, thank you. Public question time. Mr. Smith, you have some questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. The first question is, given the importance of the proposed marina and marine services precinct to Bunbury, I ask, A, when was the $1 million allocated to the project received by the City of Bunbury, and how much has been spent to date? B, has any draft allocation of the funds been made between design of each facility, services infrastructure required, environmental studies and cost-benefit analysis? And C, how many new pens are being planned in terms of extra finger jetties and berths in Casuarina Harbour and for Kambana Bay Sailing Club? Question 2, can Council please provide an update on TPS 8 and the target dates for each aspect of the gazettal process? And 3, can Council please provide a breakdown of the successful and unsuccessful applications for funding in the latest round of community funding by Council, showing the name of the applicant, the amount applied for, the cash and in-kind amounts granted, and what major events have been recommended by the Events Committee, and how much has been allocated to a major event other than the Australia Day, Cruising the Move and Cinefest Oz.
CEO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In relation to question 1, as this is not a City of Bunbury project, I would refer you to the Honourable John Castrilli to provide a response. Question 2, the City has referred both the draft Local Planning Strategy and draft Town Planning Scheme 8 to the Department of Planning for its review. Modifications are being undertaken to reflect the model scheme text and new planning regulations coming into effect on 19 of October 2015. The Department of Planning has yet to determine the gazettal process. And question 3, this will be considered as correspondence.
Thank you. Can I someone move the minutes of the last ordinary council meeting? Councillor Cook, Councillor McNeil, second. All in favour? Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Minutes of the advisory committees, someone prepared to move that? Councillor McCleary, second to Councillor Kelly. All in favour? Those against? Thanks, Councillor Hayward. Keep saying that. Well, not necessarily yes, but anyway. That's carried. Thank you. Are there any petitions, councillors?
Yes, sir.
Councillors, thank you.
It's in relation to Church Street. It's 89 Bench Road, and there are 460 signatures here, and I think they are in accordance with the Act. And sir, I do believe that there may be a speaker that would like to speak to this petition.
Well, when we deal with the matter more formally, Councillor Steck, we will give that opportunity. So you're moving that it be referred to the relevant officer?
Yes, sir.
Someone second that? Councillor Steele, all in favour? It's carried. Thanks, Councillor. Thank you. Councillors, item 8.5. Let me just see here. I beg your pardon. Presentations, deputations. We'll get on to your report in a second, Councillor Cook. Now, there are some requests for presentations tonight, councillors. Mr Smith requests approval to speak to items 10.3.1, 10.4.3, 10.5.2. Those who agree, please indicate. Those who disagree, please indicate.
No.
That's not agreed to, Mr Smith. Request from Mr Underwood of Planning Solutions wishing to make a presentation with respect to item 10.4.2. Those who agree, those who don't, that's approved. Not at the moment, Mr Underwood. I'll call you up when we get to the item. Someone prepared to move. Councillor Cook, would you like to move your report? Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to move that.
Seconder? Councillor Kelly, all in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Thanks, Councillor Cook. Okay, dealing with agenda business. Coming out so far, councillors, we have 10.11, 10.2.1, 10.4.2, 10.4.3, 10.5.4. Are there any others, Mr CEO? Were there any that I missed? Pick them all up. Are there any others, councillors, that you wish to raise tonight? Councillor Prosser.
Just 10.12, thanks.
Councillor Steele. 10.4.1. Someone move the balance be approved en bloc. Councillor Cook, Councillor Jones, all in favour. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Thanks very much. Councillors, 10.11, we're dealing with this as Councillor Morris has declared an impartiality interest. Someone prepared to move the executive recommendation? Councillor Kelly, seconder? Councillor Cook. Is there likely to be any debate on this, councillors? I'll put it. All in favour?
Yes.
Thank you. Those against, that's carried unanimously. 10.1.2. Someone prepared to move the recommendation? You're moving the recommendation, Councillor Prosser?
Yes, and I'd like that to amend an amendment to the motion as well. Names, Mayor?
Yeah, let's just have a look at those. Councillor Prosser has discussed this with me, councillors, and I see those as being complementary rather than against the thrust of the executive recommendation. We've got a seconder, Councillor McGuell. Councillor Prosser.
Yeah, only briefly, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I just believe it would be best if we refer this to the HIA and NBA. If there are any things to do with the housing industry in this policy with the use of sea containers as granite plates or sheds or such. Secondly, I think a user-friendly fact sheet or a flow chart to see if you do need a building permit or DA to have a sea container on your zoned land would just make it a bit easier for advertising for people to understand rather than read the whole policy. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor McGuell. Is anyone wishing to speak against this? I'll put it all in favour. It's carried unanimously, thank you. (10.2.1). Again, this is an impartiality interest. Someone prepared to move that? Councillor McCleary. Councillor Kelly. Is there likely to be any debate on this, councillors? I'll put it all in favour. Those against? One against. That's carried. (10.4.1). Let's go there. So I'm prepared to move the recommendation. Councillor Steele. Councillor Giles. Is there likely to be any debate on this? I'll put it all in favour. Those against, that's carried unanimously. (10.4.2), Mr. Underwood. And Councillor Stephen, you leaving? Before you start, we'll wait. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, while they're just vacating there, can I just ask a question whether or not staff are going to give us a bit of a heads up on what we received tonight?
They may well. I'll invite that to happen, Councillor Kelly. I'll just hear from Mr. Underwood. Mr. Underwood, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is that on?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'm here to talk about the Sports Power application, which is for you. Essentially, it's similar to the application which we saw about a month ago. The main difference is it's expanding into the Mitre 10 garden area at the rear of the building, which we already have council's approval for. You have before you a recommendation for approval. This is quite a simple matter. Unfortunately, the conditions which are recommended by the officers aren't, in our view, a simple response to this application. It's important for us to get the conditions right. We want an approval which is right for the planning framework, but also something that can be acted on by Sports Power so it can move in and start business. I want to speak about the concerns that we have with some of the items raised in the officer's report and our recommended response to those, i.e. changes to the conditions. We're concerned that the officers are treating our application as if it were two separate uses, a showroom on one hand and trade display out the back on the other. This is not the intent of the application. The outdoor area will be used for the display and sale of bulky goods, including trampolines and children's play equipment. It will also be an Australian first, in our view, the trial of sporting goods by customers. We see this as an innovative way forward. Unfortunately, the officers do not see it this way and have defined it as a trade display, something which clearly does not fit within what we're proposing. Trade display involves the display of trade goods and equipment. What you'd normally see is, say, for example, plumber's goods, maybe carpenter's goods, and the like. We are retailing bulky sports equipment and trialling it for use. It does not fit within the definition of trade display. What we've done, this is our view. We've sought some independent legal advice on whether we are right in this view. And we've received that through our solicitors who have provided us with a 7-page brief on this item. I want to read out just a short excerpt, which is the summary of that advice, which states, having regard to the relevant case law and a comparison of the proposed sports power business with other commonly operating showroom outlets with dominant and subservient functions, we consider that the combined and integrated activities of this business could reasonably constitute a showroom for the purposes and provisions of LPS 7, rather than 2 separate uses. The other issue which we have is that the officers have recommended a condition restricting us to 10 kilogram goods, which are defined as bulky goods if they are heavier, or accessories if they are lighter. This has grave considerations for sports power. For instance, a boxing bag could weigh anywhere between 8 kilograms and 31 kilograms. A surfboard could be anywhere between 5 kilograms and 12 kilograms. Hand weights between 1 kilogram to more than 20 kilograms. The condition is asking us to separate these items based on their weight and separate them within the premises. Secondly, the state government model definition for bulky goods showroom has recently been published on the 25th of August. It includes a definition for bulky goods showroom, which the WAPC intends will be implemented by all local governments in their local planning schemes upon review. What this means is that within 2 or 3 years, this definition will be applied by the City of Bunbury. And it includes, within the definition of bulky goods showroom, items for sporting, cycling, leisure, fitness goods and accessories. This 10 kilogram restriction does not fit within the state government's vision for a bulky goods showroom. I'd like to talk about the conditions which, although are an improvement, we consider can be improved by treating it as one use, removing the floor area restriction for accessories to 20% of the total floor area, and deleting the 10 kilogram restriction.
5 minutes. Can you, Councillor Kelly?
May I just move that Mr. Underwood gets another 2 minutes?
2 minutes. Councillor McGuell, all in favour? You've got 2 more minutes, Mr. Underwood.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We'd like the Council tonight to give us an approval which would allow Sports Power to proceed without necessarily taking this item to the State Administrative Tribunal, which would be, in our view, a waste of our clients' time and resources, as well as the Council's, I expect. Now, just finally, I did yesterday circulate some alternative motions in terms of conditions or changes to those conditions which we feel are appropriate. Now, I've just been handed tonight by an officer of the City the alternative motion put together by the City's officers, which I understand has been circulated to the councillors. This only changes condition E and includes a new condition J, which would require the amalgamation of the site. We have 2 issues. First of all, it doesn't resolve the trade display issue, condition B, which is still retained. Secondly, the requirement to amalgamate the sites, which aren't owned by my client, but instead by the landowner, or 2 separate entities, is completely unacceptable. The officer's recommendations we do not support. I look forward to your consideration tonight, and I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thanks, Mr. Underwood. The opportunity won't be there to ask you questions, but have a seat. Thank you.
Thank you nonetheless.
Thank you. Through the CEO, councillors and I received a report at 5 minutes before the start of this meeting, which doesn't thrill me greatly, but can we, Mr. CEO, invite you or an officer to explain what's before us in this late report?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Farnsworth, or...
Councillors. The alternative recommendation is a way forward in relation to recognising the 20% is a workable flexible but workable solution. The addition of the amalgamation clause is not critical, however it's simply good practice. I would just underscore that if it were to be treated as one use, that is showroom, then it would be desirable to bring it all under one title. So that's been put forward as a belt and braces proposal, just to give you certainty of the longer term operation. No other changes have been proposed at this stage. Given the fact that the proposal has not been advertised, we've taken a cautious approach. And I would simply underscore that if you wanted to go to that approval process with the entertained conditions, that we do publicly advertise it.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward, you wouldn't have seen this report that the officers tabled just prior to the meeting commencing. Mr Farnworth has just explained the nub of it. Before I invite, I'm aware that there are more than one or two councillors who have ideas on how they want to proceed with this matter. The nub of it is being treated, the two lots being treated as a showroom, 20% floor area, and the matter relating to what is a bulky good. So from here, councillors, I'm in your hands. Is someone prepared to move? Councillor Kelly?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'd like to move the recommendation as it was originally printed, but I do have some amendments, and if they can come up, I would like to talk through those amendments. If I need a second to do something, so be it.
Yeah, so this is the, okay. Can I have someone second this, Councillor Jones? What I'll do, councillors, if you're unhappy with any of this, you simply move amendments to it, and I'll deal with each amendment as they come up. Councillor Kelly, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This was fairly simple.
Sorry, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Cook.
Actually, if I speak to it as we go and we scroll up as we go, it might be...
Is that somebody's phone ringing back there? Wonderful tune. Councillor Kelly?
It sounded a bit like that.
You're right, Councillor Cook. Is it up there? I can see.
Mr Mayor, this is simple, but as I go, we'll get a scroll down. The first thing is that I wish to delete trade display and change this use to showroom, and it applies to both units, and that's the way it should be. So we change the use to showroom, and so that's the first change. So both units become showrooms. The second, 1A, I've cut out lot 501, unit 3, or the address, because we're saying at all times the development, which is the two properties, shall comply with the definition of showroom. So that just simplifies it. This is a showroom, there's a showroom, there's a showroom, both of them, which means that B doesn't need to be there because we know that it's a showroom, and A is referring to at all times the development, the subject of this planning approval, which is lot 501 and lot 74. So scrub B, no need to be there. If I can just scroll down, please, Mr Secretary. We get down, obviously we miss out a letter there, but the next one is at D, which agrees, I think, all round the floor space associated with the display and sale of other goods, non-multi goods, shall not exceed 20% in the area. That's been a debate. Let's not have a figure up there. It's 20%. That'll be measured as we go. Councillors, the rest of it remains the same, and I do not intend to include the amalgamation of the lots. I don't think that's necessary. So in summing up, what happens is that both these lots will be a showroom. Only 20% of the area can be used at a level for those ancillary and incidental goods, and that's the crux of it. Finally, we really want something to happen in this space, and it must fit within our town plan. Our town plan is the legal instrument by which we go. I believe that by classifying this as a showroom, with 20% of the area being used for these ancillary goods, that the operation can occur without any drama, and that will be up to our staff to ensure that it operates accordingly, Mr Mayor. So I think this is a simple solution to what has been an extended debate, if you like, and I ask councillors to support it as those amendments have been proposed. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jones? Is there anybody wish... Query? Sure.
I just feel that D is a little bit ambiguous, and it says that the floor space area associated with the display of the sale of other goods, non-bulky goods, shall not exceed 20% of the area. But I would like to see that to say that it includes both lots. Otherwise, it might be interpreted that 20% in this lot and 20% in that lot. That would be
Yeah, I think the intent, and correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Kelly, your intent is it applies to both lots of the combined area.
Mr Mayor, if we need to write that in, it can be shown not to exceed 20% of the total developable area. 20% of the two lots. Is that? I'll be guided by the professional staff just to make sure that that doesn't have other implications.
That's fine. Are you happy with that, Councillor Jones?
Yes.
Is there a speaker against? Yeah. You're foreshadowing an amendment, Councillor Hayward?
This gets up, yes.
If it gets up. You better amend it before it gets up, Councillor Hayward. Let's hear your amendment now, Councillor Hayward.
I'm not sure how Mr Mayor wants to deal with whether we deal with Councillor Kelly's amendments or you want mine. But I would like to see the removal of the 10 kilogram clause. I think it's unfair, and I'm happy to speak to it if you like.
Okay, just hold your fire on that one. Councillor Cook, are you moving an amendment? Or speaking
no, I'm not,
against
Mr
this?
Mayor. I'm seeking leave from the mover and the seconder to remove clause H as it's stated there, which is the similar thing that Councillor
Hayward
was talking about.
Councillor Kelly in his preamble said he wasn't prepared to do that, and this is what Councillor Hayward wants to remove as well. So perhaps you being in the chamber, if you would like to remove an amendment that H be removed.
Yes, I'd like to move an amendment that H be removed, which refers to the bulky goods definition. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
And Councillor Hayward, I suspect that you want to second that?
Yes, please.
Well, I'm inviting him to, because that was his intent. We won't play favourites here tonight, or any night for that matter. So, Councillor Cook. Councillor Hayward, Councillor Cook, I beg your pardon. Do you want to speak to that amendment? Oh, yeah, sure.
If we remove that, then where is the definition of bulky goods and the 20%? Like, is that already in our bylaws? Or, I mean, how do we know then? What ruling will we take on that then?
Well, they're not. Neither of these matters are legal, and I'll ask the CEO to correct me if I'm wrong. Neither of those terms are legal. They are simply precedents that have been used in the past to guide councils or guide us in this decision-making process. So neither of those are legal, have a legal basis. Mr. CEO, is that correct? Mr. Farnworth, yeah.
One more question.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So if we took out H, does that mean that everyone else in the city will be able to come and renegotiate?
I can't answer that question, Councillor McCleary. Councillor Cook, speak.
Can I just raise a point of order?
A point of order, happy to entertain that.
The amendments that I made were moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Jones.
Yeah.
It's my understanding that we must consider those amendments prior to considering the amendment that's been moved by Councillor Cook and Councillor Hayward.
I'm accepting your motion as the substantive motion.
Thank you, Mr.
So this is now an amendment to that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, very briefly, yes, I would like to see the removal of that because I think that has already been explained by the proponent's representatives that it does in fact make it very difficult to trade because we're going to weigh every item. I think the under clause, sorry, I'm looking at my piece of paper, which is very, very simple, I might add, that the other goods which is then described as non-bulky goods, will be carried in no more than 20% of the entire area. So I think that in itself is enough definition, and I mean, you could leave it to your own imagination, but I would imagine if you could walk it out the door with it, it's probably not bulky. So I do urge your support of this amendment. Thank you.
Councillor, it's just been pointed out to me by the officers that that 20% of the total area has to be very specifically the total floor area in use.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That was a bit of a concern of mine. So if those words are put in there, I think that just clears that up technically and legally.
20% of the total floor area. Well, if you get Liz to type that in, she's got that. You type in that other bits. Just take a seat, Councillor Morris. Sorry, we'll get this right. There's just further refinement which will help. So basically, 20% of the area in operation at any particular time. So that means they can't pick and choose. It's got to be 20% of the total area in operation. Councillor Hayward, do you wish to speak to that amendment? Go ahead.
Was to accept this amendment. The issues that Councillor Cook has raised are correct, and that is it's already covered off in the 20% description. The difficulty with this is it's too onerous, I believe, on the shopkeeper, and it's too black and white. And I'll give you a couple of examples. A push bike under this system may be less than 10 kilos. On that basis, may not be considered a bulky good, but obviously, people will need a hand to get a bike out of the store. Now, I think it's unreasonable for us to say to them that, hey, look, it's not more than 10 kilos. It doesn't count. I just think it's not fair play. Also, you can have very large surfboards and they may be polystyrene or whatever, but if you've got 3 of them for the kids, you just can't carry them all out by yourself, or one, it's 3 trips in and out. I know that may not be technically termed a bulky good, but it seems to me that just a bit of common sense needs to take place. I'm just concerned that idea of 10 kilos is just too black and white. There may be other large items that don't weigh 10 kilos, and there may be small items that perhaps weigh more. So the thing is, I think that it doesn't need to be there. It's something that had been added. I understand what our officers were trying to achieve in terms of doing it, but I think in real terms it's going to be too onerous, and I think that we ought to remove it now, and I'd urge all councillors to support this amendment.
Thanks, Councillor. Is there a speaker against the amendment? Councillor Kelly.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I understand what's happening here with the use of the term bulky goods. What we're trying to do is to ensure that this establishment is a showroom and not a shop. And that is in our town plan. A shop is an ex-use. Somewhere, somebody, our professional staff, have seen the sense in drawing a line and saying, look guys, we want to have you here. We want to make sure that you don't transgress against the town plan scheme. It could have been 11 kilos, it could have been 9, but at the moment it's 10, and that is to ensure that the proponent of this place, this showroom, doesn't inadvertently become a shop. That's the way I see it. And I think that we've done them a favour by saying, look, here's the line, you can have a showroom, you can have 20% of the goods that you wish to sell, over 340 square metres by the way, which is a substantial amount of area. But somewhere along the line, we've got to have something that's black and white to ensure that they don't go across the line in our town plan scheme. And that has been put there in the form of the definition of a bulky good. Now, I will say that there's always a little bit of wriggle room somewhere down the track. It may well be that the proponent can successfully operate, I believe that they can, with this definition of a bulky good, and somewhere in 6 months' time, 8 months' time, whatever the case may be, with the change of the town plan scheme perhaps, they'll come back and say, look, we've been pretty successful, which they will be, and here's a modification that we want. This was not put in here just for an airy-fairy, somewhere out there definition. This was put in here to make sure that we're clear of where we're going with this particular showroom, and that is 20% of it can be used in the circumstances that we've got. And here is the definition of the bulky good to assist the proponent to make sure they operate within our town plan scheme as it stands. So therefore, this amendment, I ask councillors to vote against the amendment, and let's get on with it. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Is there a speaker for the amendment? Councillor Morris.
Somebody last night or last week had said, how long is a piece of string? Well, how much does bulky goods weigh? As soon as we put a certain limit in relation to weight, Mr. Underwood very quickly pointed out that you can have a surfboard that can weigh 15 kilos and you can have one that's 5 kilos. Are we going to be having the officers going into this shop with a scale and weighing each piece and saying, no, that's out, this is in? If you put something so black and white in relation to it, it's going to make it extremely difficult to say what's bulky and what isn't in relation to some 60-year-old lady trying to pick up a box of a $300 bicycle that weighs 7.5 kilos out the door where she can't do it. Is that bulky or not? Under the regulations that we're trying to impose, it would not be bulky. And it doesn't make sense doing something like that. If you're going to have something in bulk, let's take a look in relation to what the state government is trying to place 2 years from now in relation to what is in fact a showroom and what's bulky. And the exemption is in fact what we're looking at right now. So I would go along in relation to taking out item H. But Mr. Mayor, I've got a question, and Councillor Kelly had mentioned it in relation to the substantial motion. The 20% of total floor area, are we referring to what must be under roof or outside?
Yeah, Councillor Morris, to answer your question, we have added additional words in there. 20% of the total floor area in operation at a given time. So it's got to actually be used. It's got to be floor area that's actually being used. So whatever that floor area is, 20%, no more than that to be retail.
So then if we have a trampoline, we have swing sets on the outside, is that in use at that time?
That's my understanding. But we won't get we're not going to take a straw vote here, Councillor.
Thank you.
And councillors, just you probably think I'm speaking against this, and I probably am, but that item H, the 10 kilos is one aspect of item H. The other aspect is, or where a normal person would require assistance to carry the good. Is there a speaker against? Councillor McGwell.
I was thinking more because that was kind of an argument against them, Mr. Mayor.
You go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to, basically, I won't take long because I think we've dwelled on this issue and most of the most important things have been covered. But Councillor Morris is exactly right. We can't sit there and start putting these kind of regulations in place, which basically it's got no jurisdiction. It's a number that we've come up with. And again, Mr. Mayor, in defence of that, a normal person requires assistance. Well, what's the definition of a normal person and what's the definition of assistance? So we can't stand here and say that we need to put these kind of regulations in. We've just picked up the numbers out of the air, basically. Mr. Underwood noticed or talked about the local planning regulations that are coming into effect, which has got this definition in. So basically, that's going to be part of our scheme anyway. I really think if we continue to advertise to be open for business as a city, that we can't just try and put these regulations in play. We've obviously got a proponent here who's almost bent over backwards for us. They've done a lot of work here trying to get this operation. I say we really need to support them, and let's get this going ahead and get this going. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaker against? Councillor Cook. Oh, sorry, Councillor Cleary.
Now, I think we should err on caution here because there's a consequence that we need to look at. It's all very well to bark around the 10 kilos or a normal person, but other businesses in Bunbury have been using these guidelines for a very long time. So if we change the guidelines now, right now, on the spur of the moment, we're not looking at what the consequence is. I do believe that we should err on whatever it is I'm trying to say, and be careful what we do tonight in saying that we will go ahead with this. I think we should go against it and keep it in place and then send it off to be looked at later on, and then perhaps we can review it then.
Is there a
So
further speak?
please
Sorry,
vote against this motion.
amendment.
Amendment.
That's all right. Is there a speaker for? You're going to close it?
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, you can.
My question is, do we have any evidence that this clause has been used previously?
Mr. CEO?
Not sure, Mr. Mayor.
No. Is there a speaker for the amendment? Councillor Cook, close, please. The amendment.
Mr. Mayor, thanks very much. I agree with the Deputy Mayor. Let's get on with it and do it. This is a can-do council. Let's get ahead and approve the removal of this clause. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll put the amendment, which is to delete clause H. Those in favour, please indicate.
Yes.
Those against? That's carried. So the substantive motion is as we have it there, with H deleted. Is there anybody who wishes to speak against that substantive motion? I'll put it. All in favour?
Yes.
That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Can we invite Councillor Stick to rejoin us? Councillor Prosser has declared an interest in... So, Mr Underwood, I think you followed that. It's been approved, 20%. However, with the H has been removed. So basically, what you were seeking, almost, has been approved.
Thank you.
Councillors, we move on to 10.4.3, which is a financial interest of yours, Councillor Prosser. 10.4.3. I've just got my notes here. I'll just ask the CEO to check that. Okay. Sorry, there's been a bit of renumbering going on, Councillor Prosser. Now, can I have somebody move the recommendation? I know, Councillor McCleary, you wish to have me take them one by one. Are you moving? And I'll take them one by one. Councillor Kelly? Councillor McCleary?
First one, I think that's fine, and I would just like to
Do you want to speak on all of it?
The second one, number 2 of clause, I would like us to consider to go against this clause. I believe that the land may not be ready to be developed as of after the 31st of January. And as the city has a month-by-month agreement on the public car park lease, the city should continue to utilise the area until such time as the development commences. And it's evident that many use the car park. The city makes a small profit even after the completion of REC, and it takes no sense to lock out people from that car parking area and have an empty block sitting there begging for use.
Councillor McCleary, thank you. So you're actually moving 1 and 3 and with a removal of 2.
Yes, please.
Councillor Kelly, are you happy for that to occur?
Amendment, I'll second that amendment. That's dropping.
I'm just getting your consent that it be the substantive matter.
Just 1 and 3. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So you're moving 1 and 3.
1 and 3, please, Mr. Mayor.
You may now speak to it. We've got Councillor Kelly seconding. So off you go, Councillor
Oh,
McCleary.
sorry. Well, all that, rewind.
No, you don't have to
Thank
repeat
you.
it.
Okay, no, I'm not. I just said put it on rewind, just recapping on that. So I have no more to say other than please vote for 1 and 3 and remove number 2.
Councillor Kelly.
Well, just to say, Mr. Mayor, that the first part of it, yes, good idea. Let's advertise this site for what it's going to be. I think it's going to be called Victoria Square, actually. Sounds pretty good to me. Port Victoria Square around the planet. Number 3, advise advising the landowner and applicant of the council's decision is very simple. Number two, I agree with Councillor McCleary, it should be scrubbed. I think that any option for a car park in the CBD, while it is available, ought to be used. It is a useful car park for people who work in the CBD. It is well known, and I think that while it's there, let's use it. It's only on a month-by-month basis, and somewhere along the line when the development starts, we'll have to vacate. At the same time, I'll be letting the proponent know next time I see him walking down the street with his little dog, how's your development going? Because I want this development to happen sooner than later. I don't want to be here, or somebody else might be here in a couple of years saying, well, what's happened to that development on the corner called Victoria Square? So let's use the car park, support number 1 and 3, but let's keep that car park on a month-by-month basis for the duration, and let's all ring the proponent and say, well, really hope that you're going to get cracking soon.
Thank you. Councillors, before I seek someone to speak against this, does any one of you have any wish to support number 2? Okay. Is there anybody wishing to speak against what we have before us, 1 and 3? I'll put it. All in favour? Those against? Thank you, Councillor Hayward. That's carried unanimously.
Thanks very much, Mick. Thanks very much, Council.
10.5.4 is the next item, councillors. Councillor Steele, you're moving this. Seconder, Councillor Morris. Is there anyone wishing to speak against this? I'll put it. Oh, sorry, Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir.
Before you do, Councillor Steele, do you wish to speak? Councillor Morris? Councillor Steck.
Thank you, sir. I'm very, very concerned about taking this issue to the next detailed design plan because Council itself knows that this is going to be $7 million in the making. That will be 1% on every single ratepayer's rate notices. And we've had that documentation for months. And here we are now saying, let's go and draw a drawing to take it out to tender, because this is really just a design drawing. You're going to use ratepayers' money, and half of the ratepayers, if not 3/4 of the ratepayers, are not going to use this facility. And in fact, it says that everyone can use this water playground, and in fact, that's not correct, because anyone under 12 can, but anyone over 12 cannot. And the cost is going to be $260,000 a year and plus some. So I'm not going to support this, and surprise, surprise, nobody has any documentation. I note that even in this attachments, there is no documentation that we had at least 6 months ago that absolutely drills down on all the information that is going to cost the ratepayer. And for the life of me, I can't understand why no one has that here tonight.
Speaker 4. Councillor Morris.
Well, that sort of opened the door. When you're taking a look at the cost, that's not to say that we're not looking for money from the state government, federal government, from grants, from Variety Club, from ActWest, from corporate sponsors. That's not to say that the $7 million that's been quoted by Councillor Steck, that's going to be the cost. We don't know what the cost is going to be in relation to how much is actually going to be raised from outside sources. As to say that 50-75% of the people not be using it, no, can't go along with that. I've had a couple of people from Townsville come into the shop today. Oh, how's the water playground that they have in Queensland? Best thing we've ever put. Why? Because it attracts people into the city. They stay at the hotels, they eat at the restaurants, they buy their petrol there, and they stay there for quite some time. We're not talking about being able to have the children play there for free. What we're talking about are the side benefits that come into this city. A water playground is something that will attract tourists in large numbers. Dollar for dollar, you might put $270,000 in maintenance cost in relation to it, and it might generate $4, $5, $6 million in relation to money coming into our city, generating jobs. To me, that's good value.
Further speaker against? Councillor McCleary.
I'm not concerned about funding to build. I believe there's a lot of support out there for us to build a water park, and I love the idea. My concern is the ratepayers have to foot the bill when it comes to the maintenance and the ongoing costs to keep it going. And it'll be wonderful to have all that money, as Councillor Morris said, coming into the city. But in reality, it will be for the businesses, which is fantastic. It will bring in businesses, but it's the ratepayer. We need to look at ways in which the actual water park can make money so it can start breaking even a little bit. That's what I'm concerned about. So yes, we're going to have a cafe there, but perhaps we need to look at, and I'd feel more confident with this going forward, if there was something else there that we could have, that we've thought of, that'll help work and raise funds for the ongoing costs. That is my only concern. I would love to have the water park, but the ongoing cost for the ratepayer, and we only have a small rate base, you've got to admit, is a big concern to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Further speaker 4, Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, if we took that kind of logic and applied it to the Bunbury Regional Entertainment Centre, Bunbury Regional Art Gallery, the sporting fields, we are well endowed with sporting fields, they are all at a cost to council. All of them. You know, our beautiful $9 million library, it doesn't generate funds on its own, but there's amenities that really do belong in a regional city for the benefit of the ratepayers. And the beauty about the water park is that it's free. Everybody can go and use that water park. And I've seen the water park in Townsville and in Cairns and underneath the Piermont Bridge in Sydney. And I've seen, kids barely able to walk, playing in water parks. And it really warms the cockles of the heart, I'll give you the tip. And I'm looking forward to this very much because I think as soon as some of the elements start to appear, then its credibility will be established and donors will want to be part of it. So it's a very exciting prospect. Congratulations to those councillors who have had this on their list of things to achieve for the City of Bunbury. It fits in beautifully with the Leschnell Inlet Management Plan, and we can build on it. And I really hope that everybody does support it, because it really does deserve to be supported.
Thank you. Is there another speaker against? Councillor Steele, do you wish to close? I'll put it. All in favour, please indicate. Those against? That's 2 against, that's carried. Councillor Steele records her name against. You fine, Councillor McCleary? Councillors, we just now move on to item 14. We have a new business of an urgent nature regarding the appointment of a new Director of Works and Services. The urgency, Mr CEO, is... I'll get you to explain.
Yeah, it's really, Mr Mayor, certainly it's about negotiating or finalising the terms and conditions of the contract, and we need a formal position of council. Thank you.
Someone prepared to move that we deal with this matter?
I move that we accept this matter.
Thank you. Councillor Cook, second up. Councillor Jones, all in favour? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Councillor Jones moves. Is there a seconder? Councillor Stick. All in favour? Thank you. That's unanimously approved, and look forward to welcoming Mr Harris to the workforce. Yes, yeah. Can I have someone move? We now move behind closed doors, please. Councillor Steele, Councillor Cleary, all in favour? That's carried. Ladies and gentlemen, we're dealing with some confidential matters now, so thank you for your attendance tonight.